hope you have your tea ready to tune in, switch off everything else, just tune in to yourself and to my voice and to your tea. The theme of this video is coming back to the here and now. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean to come back to the here and now? Is that more resonating with you in terms of the space that you're in, the physical space that you're in? Or is it more aligned with and relating to your internal center, coming back to this space within? So just to start off with, it's important because, well, this is the initial thing that came to me when I was jotting some notes down for this video. Because our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, can only take so much stress and hypervigilance and just being in the sympathetic state, so the fight, flight or freeze response. And I would just like to highlight here that we need that sympathetic response. I need that as a blind person. I have 10% of my vision. I've got a condition called rod cone dystrophy. I need that stress and hypervigilance and being in that sympathetic state sometimes to help me survive, to help me cross a road, to help me not get hit by a car or injure myself. I need to be alert and focused. So I'm just highlighting some importance to being in that state, just recognizing that it's not all bad. And the reason why it's important to not be in that state all the time is because you will feel that in your body. Like, you will feel that stress and that tension, and it will build up and build up. And I actually have a condition called fibromyalgia, which I believe has stemmed from that building up of tension and stress, always bracing up when I'm out and about because I'm scared of being out in the world as a person with low vision. And my system has supported me to be out in the world in a way that I'm able to by keeping me in that survival state. But I need to come back to myself quite a lot. I need to keep reminding and putting in this consistency to come back to myself, because I know and have experienced ill health from being in this overwhelmed, hypervigilant, hypersensitive state for too long. And I really noticed the benefits when I dropped down into that meditation or into that yoga practice or into that mindful activity of just drinking some tea and being with my thoughts. I notice how nourishing that is for my internal, physical and spiritual, emotional well-being. And as we're on the topic of blindness here, I also wanted to highlight how much of a gift it is. And I know that sounds bizarre because it's a dark place to be in. And I can only speak from my experience, and I don't want people to think I've got it sorted, I've got it all, because I did go through years and years of grieving my sight loss. But I've been able to work through it, and as Sadhguru says, you can either choose to be wounded or choose to be wise. So my wisdom is choosing that path of using what I have to make the most out of the life that I've been given. And the gift, it is a gift, because where else can you go other than within, with your eyes closed. And I have my vision, I have useful sight, and I know there's people who have lost their sight rapidly after being sighted for many years, or who have been born with no sight. But I can only speak from my experience. But I know that our stories are all relatable, and I hope that it can resonate with some people that are watching this. So seeing what you have as a gift, your trauma, your experiences, and losing your sight is a traumatic thing to go through. It can be quite confusing and debilitating, it's depressing, it's frustrating, it's infuriating. But I've also chosen the life of living with this condition in the best way that I can, and that is by accepting that it's not going to change. Only my mind and my perspective around this situation can change. It's not a tangible thing to change, and that helps me quite a lot, because I know, and I'm not waiting for treatment in my lifetime for this condition, rod cone dystrophy. I'm not waiting around for it. I am owning the process. I am really just being immersed in this experience of living with limited sight, and that's okay. Like, that's my story, that's a part of my story, and you get to write the chapters of your life. You get to choose how your story pans out. And this thinking didn't come overnight. Just to reinstate that, because I know people look at others and think, oh, well, they were born with that skill. They are just a natural. But I'm not sure if that is true. It's not true to me, because I know I've worked hard for the skill set that I have, the mindset that I have. I worked hard, and I see in others that effortlessly own and show and express their craft or their skill. I know that they have put in the work to be that good and effortless at that thing. So coming back to your centre, how can we do that? I'm going to share some tips with you now, some resources. So the key thing here is to be resourceful. So even if it's rubbing your hands together to feel into the palms and the temperature of your hands and the warmth you've created, or gripping the hands slightly, tapping your chest, stomping your feet as well. That's quite grounding, especially if you're doing that on the earth. My favourite one is, especially when I'm out and about, is to get a tea, a hot drink, and feel into most of the senses here, the touch, temperature, the taste. And you won't be able to see any steam coming off this because it's been waiting for a while. But if you can see the steam, just sort of like focusing in on what the patterns that it's creating is quite a creative, mindful thing to do. It's quite fascinating, and it really brings you to the presence by having that focus, that visual focus. And if you don't have enough sight for that, you could always sort of place your hands on top and sort of guide your hand where the steam is rising. That can be quite a nice thing to do, maybe not when you're out and about in public, but when you're at home. And a lot of people don't like hot drinks, so a cold drink does the same thing as well. It brings you back to the present moment. especially if it's an icy drink. I prefer hot drinks, especially in the winter. And yeah, if you're just living in cold England. Another thing that I do, apart from my lovely tea here, is I carry around crystals with me. I know that's a bit woo-woo for some people, and they just don't get it, or don't understand, or maybe you have something else. Maybe it's a rock or a pebble, or something that means or resembles centering for you. So my one is a crystal. Here it is. It's a black obsidian. The crystals I find are really, really pretty. They're really lovely to look at and really lovely to feel into as well, just gripping at your palm. My one's on a necklace. They don't have to be on a necklace. You can just have them in your pocket. But just holding it in your palm is quite centering. And obsidian is also said to absorb negative energy, and I absorb everything like a sponge. So I like the idea or the belief that the world's energy isn't being stored into my bones, into my skin. It's not being absorbed by my mind, and I'm not affected by everyone's energy if I have something else to direct that energy into. And that's my belief, that those energies that I used to get so wound up by and irritated and overwhelmed are all going into this, and I cleanse this crystal every now and again in water under moonlight, or bury it in the soil of my plants to start again and keep carrying on wearing it. I also place it in Epsom salt baths, just as a belief that the negative energy is being absorbed by the salts. So that's another thing that you can do, finding something that works for you, a tactile thing that you can direct energy into and you can feel into to feel grounded. Touch is very important. Being in nature also, being close to the earth, the ground, where there's not much city life and there's more trees and mud and grass and plants. It's really nice to just go for a park and listen to the birds and tune into what's happening around in nature. And we are a part of nature, and it's really centering to come back to that resource if you can, if you have that around you. If you don't, maybe even spending time with your plants, I guess. Some people hug trees, they find that really grounding. And I can understand why. If you imagine, the roots of a tree probably go way down into the earth. And just by placing your hand on it must be so rooting for you as well. Just taking in that wisdom of the tree itself. Okay, another thing is the breath. And that is the last thing that I will touch upon before I end off. Obviously take what resonates and leave the rest behind, as my friend says, and I love that. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Justine says that a lot in her videos. So, breathing in, breathing out, noticing what your breath is doing in certain situations. Breathing in and inflating the tummy. Breathing out and deflating belly to spine, feeling your tummy, like with your hands, placing them there to feel into your center. This is our center. Our belly, our gut brain instinct is here. Our instinctual thinking brain is said to be here. Our second brain in our guts. So if your gut is off, then your mind is probably off as well. So paying attention to what you're eating. Eating rooty vegetables, carrots, sweet potato, and nourishing your gut system, probiotics, and whatever works for you. Just nourishing yourself, rejuvenating this gut system in order to open this channel from this area, from, if you think about it from a chakra point of view, from this belly area, the root, the sacral, up into the mind, where the third eye is, the crown. So just opening up any blockages by restoring this space. So really there's a lot to it, and everything you do helps everything else that you do. They all interlink, like our bodily systems do as well. And if one area is off, that will knock the other areas off. And that's believed in the chakra system. If your root chakra is blocked, then most likely your other chakras will be hard to keep in balance as well. So your breath, resourcing yourself with the one thing that does not cost anything. Centering yourself with your breath, deep breaths. And the correct way of breathing, or the yogi way of breathing, breathing in and out through the nose, placing your hand on your tummy and breathing in to inflate the tummy, and then breathing out to deflate belly to spine, inviting in the pauses in between your breathing and making sure that exhalation breath is extended as well. It's about discipline and consistency with yourself, knowing that you are here, I am here, we are all here for a reason, and it's important to come back to that, to come back to your reason, your purpose. And if you're not sure, if you feel like you don't have much direction right now, that's okay. See if you can talk it out with a friend or therapist or a loved one that is supporting of you. That's important there, because you don't want to share your path with anyone that will dim your light. And see if you can get that bit of encouragement to try new things and come back to your purpose. And you will find your purpose as you explore and venture throughout life, using what you have always to go and venture out from there and experience the beauty, the wonders, the weirdness of life itself. The more you practice using the resources you have, the more you can tune in to yourself. Tune within to come back to your home body and be more aware and conscious of what is going on, so that you're better able to tend to those needs that you have that may have been pushed under the surface and numbed or not looked after. So the way we can look after ourselves is by listening inwards, going inwards, and it's not scary. It can be. But once you enter that void, there's no unseeing anything, but it's a whole world in there. You have a whole world inside you, multiple dimensions and universes, and you are an expansion of that and so much more. So I am here. I would really love to know if you have any resources to bring yourself back into the here and now. My one has to be tea, especially. But I hope you've enjoyed my little return, and I look forward to reading some of the comments to see what you think and how you feel about the statement, I am here. Thank you guys.